Hello and welcome to the second video discussing Chapter 10 of Government in America, focusing on interest groups. Now in the last video, we set up the idea that there are at least three big theories about how interest groups work and whether they work well. We talked about pluralism and we talked about elitism. Now, pluralism says there are lots of groups, these groups have influence, and that's generally a good thing. And then elitism said there may be a lot of groups, but only a few of them have power, and that's not such a great thing. The third theory, hyperpluralism, says there are a lot of groups, they do have influence, but this is a bad thing. In fact, the hyperpluralists think we've gone way overboard with the interest groups. There's too many. The hyperpluralists say that the groups are able to kind of capture parts of the government because the interest group cares about what it cares about more than most of the people in the country and frankly more than most people in the government. So the interest group finds the few people in the government that do care about their issue and works closely with them to try and make sure that things go the way they want it to go. What you wind up then having is you wind up having different parts of the government working with different interest groups, and so then the government's not working together as a sort of cohesive, organized unit. You got all these little parts of government all pursuing their own agendas and going in their own directions, and it hurts the overall function of the government, according to the hyperpluralists. All right, there's nobody who's looking out for the country as a whole. Everybody's just looking at the particular issue or the particular thing that they think is good for them. And hyperpluralists express this through the concept of iron triangles. The idea of the iron triangle is that what happens is you get this thing called a sub-government, and the sub-government is formed by a connection between three things, hence triangle. Okay? The three things are the interest group that cares about the issue, the congressional committees that care about that issue, and then whatever agencies and parts of the executive branch also care about the issue. So those three things will work together in order to try and maximize the power of those committees and agencies and get the policies that the interest group would want to see in place. What do we mean by this? This is kind of a abstract notion. So let's say, for example, that there's a set of companies that are making a certain kind of educational product. Okay, and so they want the government to help promote this kind of product. The education companies, they form an interest group, and then they work with the congressional committees on education and the Department of Education in the executive branch, and they try and push education policy in a way that will make this product more popular, more useful, more promoted in the schools. And so that's sort of what the iron triangle is afraid of. The iron triangle, the interest group gives a lot of attention to the committees and the executive departments because they care about what they care about. And so the committee and the executive agency will pay attention to the interest group because these are the people who are going to promote the idea that their committee and their agency is important. So there's kind of each side gets something out of it. Another example would be, an interest group that's organized around promoting certain types of pharmaceutical products. Well, they might work with the congressional committees on healthcare and the executive agencies like the Food and Drug Administration to try and make it easier for their pharmaceutical products to get to market. Okay, that's the sort of thing where you get that connection of the interest group and the parts of the government that really care about a particular issue. They link up and form this sub-government and push things in a certain direction. And the hyperpluralists think that this is bad for the country and winds up, sort of taking away from the government's ability to represent all of the people. So that's, again, the fear with hyperpluralism. So, again, these are three competing theories. Different people view what interest groups do in different ways. We can't look and say it's clear that this is the case or that's the case. But in the discussion, those are three theories that come up a lot. Now, outside of those theories, there's sort of a mechanical question of how does an interest group get what it wants? And one of the key things that you've got to remember about interest groups is what matters is not how many people join the interest group. What matters is how much do the members of the interest group care about the issue. Intensity matters more than quantity. All right? An interest group that can mobilize a small number of very committed people is going to have more influence than an interest group with a lot of people who can't really get mobilized. Okay? Now, one of the things that interest groups have to grapple with in order to make sure that they have high intensity in their members is something called the free rider problem. All right? If an interest group has a free rider problem, it's not going to have the intense support that you might think it would based on how popular its issue is. And the reason for this can be seen when we look at what certain groups want. Certain groups want to achieve something that's good for everybody. It's called a collective good. Let's say higher quality air, right? Less pollution in the air. Okay, that's a collective good. It's good for everybody. We all get to enjoy higher quality air. Okay, now if you do all the work to get the pollution out of the air, that doesn't mean that I have to go around breathing more polluted air than you do because you did all the work. I get to breathe the clean air too, and I didn't do any work. I'm a free rider. I am riding for free off the labor and effort that you have put into the issue. Okay? And from a rational choice theory point of view, okay, being a free rider makes sense. If somebody else is going to do the work and I can get the benefit, why should I do the work? Okay? Again, from a purely, add up the pluses and minuses, that makes logical, computational, rational sense. Okay? So it's a problem, the free rider problem. What is it that groups will do in order to get around this? Well, one thing that they do is they try to balance out the collective good that they're working for with selective benefits. Okay? Selective benefits are benefits that you only get if you are a member, if you make some sort of contribution to the group. All right? So think of AAA, the American Automobile Association. Okay? Now, that is, in one sense, an interest group that's trying to promote policies that are good for drivers and people who use highways. And lots of people do that. But what is it that gets people to join and pay a membership fee to AAA? Oh, they'll give you free roadside service if you need it, or you can get discounts with your AAA card at certain businesses. That's a selective benefit. Now, as a rational choice theory, as I add up the worth, I say, oh, well, my membership fee will actually get me more in benefits, in the long run. So it makes sense for me to give my money to this organization. Okay. Now, does that mean that I'm super passionate about whatever the AAA cares about? Probably not. I may not even think about the fact that I'm a AAA member until my car breaks down. So my intensity may not be great because I'm really working in this group or being part of this group for the selective benefits, not in order to pursue the collective good. AAA is okay with that because at least they got my membership fee. At least they've got that they can help them, with their operations and keep going. Okay, so intensity is important, and because intensity is important, a lot of times interest groups will focus on one issue or a small group of issues so that everybody is on the same page and everybody cares about that issue. Again, that's a difference between an interest group and a political party. Political party, it needs some passionate people to volunteer and donate and whatnot, but what it really needs is it needs a bunch of people who are willing to come out on election day and vote. So as long as they can get you to do that, they'll offer you whatever issue they think will work. Whereas the interest group is trying to get a group of people who are committed and in agreement and will work with each other and have intensity in order to get what they want. Okay? So, again, that's one thing about how interest groups structure themselves. Now, you may have heard me mention membership fees. Okay, that's one way that interest groups get money. Interest groups need money in order to do their work. In the next and final video in this series, we'll talk a little bit about what do interest groups do with that money and how does it influence our system. Until then, I'll leave you with these questions for thought and discussion.